This is my review of the Turnigy TD10 V2. This is an on-road sedan kit that only costs $74 from Hobbyking. It comes with wheels and tires, but you'll have to supply your own electronics. That means a brushless motor with a matching ESC, a steering servo, transmitter and receiver, and a battery. The kit was easy to assemble and it took around 6 hours. All the steps were nicely explained and only a few steps were unclear. During the assembly you get a great idea of how good the durability of this car will be. It uses a lot of plastic parts, which worries me. But since it's only $74 you can't complain. They also use a lot of purple spaces just to give it a more premium look. They don't even do anything. They use a lot of unique parts with a very fragile structure. It's almost like they want you to break the car. This is what the car looks like after assembly. When you have assembled the car and installed the electronics, it's time to start driving the car. You will then experience that this car drives really nicely on a 2S light wheel system. It can be tuned so that it drives straight as an arrow, it turns pretty nicely, and the stock tires, they are not very good. You really need to upgrade. We upgraded pretty quickly to some Team Zorix R28. Up until this point I was very pleased with the car, but then I experienced my first crash and things went very ugly very quickly. The durability of this car is what you'd expect from an on-road sedan. If your crash is worse than just a light rollover, then you're going to break something. Hobbyking has all spare parts for this car in stock. But the thing is, they're spread out over 3 different warehouses: EU, UK and the international warehouse. I needed parts from EU, UK and the international warehouse, which ends up costing around $30 to $40 in shipping. And this is $30 in shipping for around $7 in parts. When you have run the car 1 hour on a 2S system, the rear diff will start to skip teeth. To fix this you have to open up the diff and trim about 1/2 mm of the yellow spacer. The front diff is a different story and it breaks really easily. You need to get the $20 Sakura Ultimate upgrade. Since I live in Europe I have to import this part from China or the United States. This means that I will have to pay shipping and around $35 in import charges. I can also buy it here in Europe, but here it's super overpriced. I don't think I'll be getting this upgrade for the car, it's simply way too expensive. And this pretty much sums up the durability and part support for this car. Overall, it's a very bad experience. Hobbyking only carries around half the parts in the European and UK warehouse, and the rest of the parts you can either import from China and the United States or pay a ridiculous overprice from the Netherlands. I very quickly broke the front suspension arm on the car, and since Hobbyking couldn't deliver the part, I had to design it myself and print it on my 3D printer. I used a pretty low quality Tivo tarantula and therefore the parts weren't very great. The parts were also printed in very brittle PLA filament, which meant they broke quite easily. I'm currently waiting on a printer that can print ABS, and I think this will change the spare parts issue with this car. All the structural pieces could be printed nicely and they gave decent durability, but this outer joint for the front differential gave huge issues. No matter which orientation I printed the part in, the durability just wasn't there. Maybe printing it in nylon and ABS will help, but in PLA it's a no-go. Again, you need the front diff upgrade. For me the front diff upgrade cost around $60 to get to my house, and it's way too much considering that I paid $74 for this car. Before everything started to break on the cars, we did get some video of the cars running. I have very mixed feelings about this car. On one hand, it drives really nicely, especially with upgraded tires, and overall it is just a lot of fun to drive. But on the other hand, the durability is terrible and the part support is even worse, especially if you live in Europe. If you live somewhere where you can get all the spare parts and the upgrade parts for this car, I would say go for it. If you live in EU, don't.